was a regular Saturday morning at the community gym. The gym wasn't very big, but it was popular with people from the neighborhood. The walls were lined with mirrors and the floor was covered with thick mats. There was a faint smell of sweat and rubber, and the sound of people warming up and stretching filled the room. Some were chatting quietly, some were practicing kicks and punches, and others were waiting for the martial arts workshop to start. The workshop was open to anyone, no matter the skill level. Some people came to improve their fighting skills, while others were just curious about what martial arts were all about. The instructor was a man with years of experience. He wore a black gi with a large patch on the back, showing his rank as a third-degree black belt. He moved with confidence, speaking clearly and demonstrating moves with ease. Everyone seemed to respect him. That morning, a woman walked quietly through the door. She didn't look like she belonged there at first glance. She was dressed casually in faded jeans and a simple sweater. No special shoes, no uniform. Her hair was tied back loosely and she carried a gym bag that looked worn but clean. She walked slowly, almost carefully, and chose a spot near the back of the room away from the center of attention. People glanced at her, some with mild curiosity, but most quickly went back to their own business. She didn't say much, just watched the others with quiet interest. There was something calm about her, a stillness that didn't quite fit the lively atmosphere of the gym. She looked around once or twice, her eyes resting on the instructor as he explained the moves to the class. She wasn't sure why she was there. Part of her wanted to learn something new. Part of her just wanted to watch and be around people. The thought of joining in was a little scary. What if she wasn't good? What if she couldn't keep up? But something made her stay. The instructor noticed her too. He was used to seeing all kinds of people come and go, but this woman was different. She didn't look like she was here to prove anything. She wasn't loud or showy. She seemed quiet and maybe even unsure. He decided to bring her into the group. Smiling warmly, he called out, "All right, everyone, today we're going to work on some basic self-defense moves. We'll pair up and practice together. Don't worry, it's all safe and it's a great chance to learn something useful." The group started to pair up. The woman stayed where she was, hoping to avoid attention. But the instructor's eyes met hers, and with a friendly gesture he said, "You there, come on up here." A hush fell over the room. Some people chuckled softly, thinking this was a joke. The woman felt a wave of nervousness, but stood up anyway. She walked to the front where the instructor waited. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll go easy on you. Just follow along and you'll be fine." She nodded, trying to stay calm. The instructor reached out and grabbed her wrist firmly but gently. "This is a wrist grab defense. Watch carefully." He demonstrated how to twist the body and move in a way that would let her slip free from someone grabbing her wrist. His movements were smooth and practiced. She watched closely, trying to understand the angles and steps. "Now, your turn," he said. She took a deep breath and reached out to grab his wrist. Her grip was unsure at first, but she followed his instructions. She twisted her body and stepped to the side. To her surprise, the instructor's wrist slipped free easily. She looked up at him, uncertain but hopeful. "Well done," he said with a grin. "Let's try again, but I'll make it a bit harder this time." The instructor tightened his grip and the woman focused even more. Her heart beat faster, but she didn't give up. She twisted and stepped aside again. This time she moved with a little more confidence. The room was quiet, and a few people whispered among themselves. The instructor looked at her closely. "You've got some natural skill," he said. "Are you sure you've never done this before?" She smiled faintly but didn't answer. She felt a strange mix of pride and embarrassment. She had wanted to keep this side of herself hidden. As the class went on, the woman returned to her spot. But the mood had changed. The group looked at her differently now. She wasn't just a quiet newcomer. She was someone with potential. The instructor kept glancing her way, clearly curious. That day, the woman came to the gym without much expectation. She was just looking for something new, maybe a challenge. What happened surprised everyone, and it was just the beginning. The room was still buzzing quietly from the earlier exercise when the instructor looked toward the woman again. He noticed how calm she had stayed, even when all eyes were on her. There was something about her that didn't quite fit with the rest of the group, and he was curious to see what else she could do. After a short break, the instructor gathered everyone back together. "All right," he said with a smile. "We're going to try something a bit more challenging now. I want you all to partner up and try some light sparring. Remember, this is just practice. No one's here to hurt anyone else. Just have fun and learn." The participants started pairing off quickly, some with friends, some with people they had just met. The woman looked around, hesitating. She wasn't sure if she should join in. She was still not very comfortable being the center of attention, but the instructor again pointed toward her. "You're up again," he said with a grin. "Come on, let's see what you've got." She took a deep breath, nodded, and moved to the center of the room. The group fell quiet, watching with interest. The instructor paired her with a man who was taller and seemed very confident. He had a black belt as well, and his movements were sharp and precise. He looked down at her, smirking a little as if expecting an easy win. "Ready?" the instructor asked. The man nodded and moved forward first. He tried a simple attack, throwing a light punch toward her face. She dodged quickly, stepping back and keeping her hands up. The man seemed surprised but smiled, pushing forward with a few more attacks. She stayed calm, watching his moves carefully. Instead of trying to fight head-on, she moved with the flow, sidestepping and avoiding his strikes. The room was silent except for the sounds of their movement, the soft thuds of feet on the mats and the occasional grunt. The woman wasn't fast, but her movements were smooth and controlled. She didn't try to overpower him. She used his energy against him. After a few minutes, the man made a mistake. He reached too far with a punch and she caught his wrist. With a quick twist and step, she flipped him gently to the mat. The room gasped. The man laughed, clearly surprised. "Well, that was unexpected," he said as he stood up. The instructor clapped his hands. "Excellent work. That's exactly the kind of skill and control we want to see." The woman smiled quietly but said nothing. Inside, she felt a mixture of relief and pride. She had been worried she wouldn't be able to keep up, but now she could see she had something real. As the sparring continued, the instructor watched closely. He noticed that the woman wasn't just lucky. She had a deeper understanding of movement and balance. Her reactions were calm and quick, and she didn't waste energy. After the session, the instructor pulled her aside. "You've got some serious talent," he said quietly. "Have you trained before? Martial arts?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, a long time ago. But I stopped." He raised his eyebrows. "Really? You've got the skills of someone who's been practicing recently." She smiled softly, not wanting to share too much. "Life gets busy," she said. The instructor nodded, understanding. "Well, if you ever want to come back to training, we'd love to have you." Over the next few weeks, the woman returned to the gym more often. She began to join classes and work on her skills quietly. The group started to see her as more than just a newcomer. She was someone with experience, someone worth learning from. The instructor started asking her to help with demonstrations. At first, she was shy, but she grew more confident. The gym felt like a second home. One day, during a break, a younger student asked her how she learned to move like that. She smiled and said, "It's all about balance and listening to your body, and not fighting harder than you need to." The student nodded, impressed. The woman didn't talk much about her past, but those who trained with her could tell she had a story. She carried herself with quiet strength and humility. The gym's atmosphere changed with her presence. Other women started joining, inspired by how calm and skilled she was. The instructor noticed this too and made sure to encourage a welcoming environment. One evening after class, the instructor and the woman stayed behind to practice some techniques. He was still amazed by her skills and wanted to learn more about her story. She looked at him and said softly, "I trained in a different style. It's called Aikido. It's not about fighting. It's about harmony and using an opponent's energy to your advantage." The instructor nodded. Intrigued? "It's been a while since I practiced seriously," she continued. "But the basics never leave you." He smiled. "Well, I'm glad you found your way back here." From that day on, the woman and the instructor built a friendship based on respect and shared passion for martial arts. She wasn't just a student anymore. She was a part of the gym's heart. The journey had started quietly, but it was only just beginning. The days passed quietly, but the woman's visits to the gym became a regular part of her life. Each time she came, she moved a little more confidently, spoke a little more freely, and practiced with a little more focus. The instructor noticed this change and appreciated her dedication. One afternoon, after the class had ended and most people had left, the woman stayed behind. She was sitting on the mats, stretching and quietly thinking. The instructor came over and sat beside her. "You're improving quickly," he said softly. "Have you thought about competing? Maybe entering a tournament?" The question surprised her. She shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "I'm not sure that's for me." I don't want to fight. I just want to learn, he nodded, understanding. I get it. Not everyone wants to fight in tournaments, but sometimes testing yourself in that way helps you grow. She looked thoughtful. Maybe, but I have other reasons for being here. Reasons I haven't shared. The instructor smiled gently. Whenever you're ready, I'm here to listen. That night, as she left the gym and walked home, her mind was full of memories. Memories she had kept buried for years. Years ago, she had trained in martial arts not just for fun or fitness. It had been a way to protect herself during a difficult time in her life. Back then, she had faced challenges that tested her strength, courage, and spirit. Martial arts had given her a sense of control when everything else felt uncertain. But after those years, life had pulled her away from training. Work, family, and other responsibilities had taken priority. The skills she had learned had stayed with her, even if she hadn't practiced them regularly. Now, standing in the gym with others watching her, she felt a quiet strength returning. A part of herself that she thought was lost was waking up. A few weeks later, the gym held a special event, a demonstration day where different martial arts styles were showcased. The woman was invited to perform a short Aikido demonstration. It was a chance for her to show what she could do and to explain a little about the style she loved. On the day of the event, the gym was filled with people, students, families, and neighbors curious to see the demonstrations. The atmosphere was lively and full of excitement. When it was her turn, she stepped onto the mat. The room quieted down and all eyes were on her. She felt a familiar calm wash over her. She began with slow, deliberate movements, showing how Aikido was different from other martial arts. It wasn't about striking hard or fast, but about flowing with an opponent's energy and redirecting it. She moved smoothly, demonstrating throws and joint locks with precision. The crowd watched closely, impressed by her skill and grace. After the demonstration, the instructor invited her to speak. She explained how Aikido taught her balance, patience, and respect for others. She spoke softly but clearly, sharing how martial arts had helped her through difficult times. The audience applauded warmly. Many approached her afterward to ask questions and share their own stories. That day, something changed. The woman realized that she wasn't just a student or a beginner anymore. She had become a teacher, a source of inspiration for others. Back at the gym, her presence brought a new energy. People who had never considered martial arts before started asking questions. Some women who had been hesitant to join classes found courage seeing her example. The instructor smiled quietly. The woman's journey was proof that martial arts was about more than just fighting. It was about healing, growth, and connection. One evening, as the two of them packed up the gym after class, the woman spoke quietly. I never thought I'd come back to this. I thought those days were behind me. He looked at her with respect. Sometimes the past is never really behind us. It's part of who we are, and sometimes we need to return to what we love to move forward. She smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. The gym was no longer just a place to train. It was a place of new beginnings, friendships and hope. And for the woman, the path ahead was wide open, full of possibilities she had never imagined. The woman's return to martial arts had brought new meaning to her life, but she still carried the quiet weight of her past. Training at the gym had become a refuge, a place where she could focus on the present and find strength in movement. Yet there were moments when memories crept in, reminders of challenges she had faced long ago. One day, the instructor invited her to help lead a beginner's class. It was a small group of people who were nervous and unsure. They looked to her with wide eyes, hoping for guidance. She felt a mix of excitement and nerves, but agreed. As she stood before the group, she realized how much she had changed. The nervousness she once felt when starting her own training was gone. Instead, she felt calm and ready to help others find their own path. She began by showing simple movements, encouraging the group to feel their bodies and breathe. It's not about fighting, she told them gently. It's about understanding yourself and learning to move with confidence. The students listened closely, some with shy smiles, others with serious focus. She guided them through basic steps, correcting their posture and encouraging them with kind words. As the weeks went by, the beginners grew stronger, and so did her confidence as a teacher. She found joy in watching others discover their own strength. It reminded her why she had fallen in love with martial arts in the first place. Outside the gym, life was still busy and sometimes hard. The woman juggled work and family responsibilities, but the time she spent training and teaching gave her balance. It was a way to recharge and reconnect with herself. One evening, after a long day, she sat quietly at home, thinking about how far she had come. She remembered the days when she doubted her abilities and the times she felt alone. Now, surrounded by friends at the gym and students who looked up to her, she felt a sense of belonging. The instructor noticed the change too. He admired how she had grown from a shy newcomer into a confident teacher and leader. He often invited her to share her knowledge with more advanced students, trusting her insight and experience. At one point, the woman was asked to help organize a self-defense workshop for women in the community. It was a chance to reach people who might be afraid or unsure about their safety. She agreed without hesitation. The workshop was held in a local community center, and the room was filled with women of all ages. Some were nervous, others curious. She began by speaking about the importance of confidence and awareness, then moved on to simple techniques anyone could learn. She demonstrated how to break free from holds, how to stay calm in difficult situations, and how to use an attacker's energy to escape safely. The women practiced with careful attention, encouraged by her gentle guidance. After the workshop, many came forward to thank her. Some shared stories of their own fears and struggles. The woman listened with kindness, feeling deeply connected to these strangers through shared experiences. That night, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The skills she had learned so long ago were now helping others in a new way. She realized that her journey was about more than just martial arts. It was about healing, strength, and community. Back at the gym, the atmosphere continued to change. More women joined the classes, inspired by the workshops and the welcoming environment. The gym became a place where people came not only to train but to support each other. The woman's presence had become a quiet but powerful force. She led by example, showing that strength wasn't about fighting harder, but about knowing yourself and standing tall. One afternoon, the instructor asked if she would like to attend a regional seminar for martial arts instructors. It was an opportunity to learn new techniques and meet others who shared her passion. She was hesitant at first but decided to go. The seminar was held in a nearby city and brought together instructors from many different styles and backgrounds. Over the course of several days, she listened, practiced, and exchanged ideas. She felt energized by the new knowledge and the chance to connect with others who understood the deeper meaning of martial arts. At the seminar, she met people who had faced their own struggles and found healing through training. She shared her story quietly, finding encouragement and friendship. When she returned to the gym, she brought new energy and ideas. She started teaching some of the techniques she had learned, adapting them to the needs of her students. Her teaching grew stronger, and so did her belief in the power of martial arts to change lives. The woman's journey was far from over. Each step brought new challenges and new opportunities to grow, but she no longer felt alone or unsure. She was part of a community, and she was making a difference. The hidden skill that once seemed a secret was now a gift she shared with others. And the man who had doubted her at the beginning, he was no longer surprised. He was proud. After the seminar, the woman felt a quiet strength growing inside her. It wasn't just about learning new techniques or meeting other instructors. It was something deeper. She realized that her story, her return to martial arts, her quiet progress, and her steady growth was not just about her anymore. It was something that could help others, and that made her journey even more meaningful. She walked back into the gym the following week with fresh energy. The space that once felt unfamiliar now felt like home. The students greeted her with warm smiles. Some waved from across the mats. Even the instructor, who had once been unsure of her, now looked at her with full confidence. One evening, during a quiet moment between classes, he asked her something unexpected. "I've been thinking," he said, "what if we expanded your role here? Maybe something more official. Would you be open to that?" She paused, surprised. "Like what?" "Maybe leading your own program. Something focused on self-defense. For women. For kids. For anyone who needs it." At first, she wasn't sure. It felt like a big step. But then she thought about everything that had happened. The early days of doubt. The moment she surprised everyone on the mat. The kids she had started teaching. The women who had come to her workshops. And how each person who crossed her path seemed to carry their own quiet battles. She nodded. "Yes, I'd like that. Word spread quickly. People in the neighborhood started talking about the new program. Some were curious. Others were excited. A few were skeptical. But the woman didn't let that bother her anymore. She had learned that people often judge before they understand, but what truly mattered was showing up, doing the work, and leading by example. The first class of her new program was small. A few women, a few teens, one mother with her daughter. They stood nervously at the edge of the mat, unsure of what to expect. The woman welcomed them with a calm smile and invited them to sit in a circle. She didn't begin with punches or kicks. She began with a question. "Why are you here?" At first no one spoke, but slowly one woman raised her hand and said, "I want to feel safe when I walk alone." Another added, "I want my daughter to know how to protect herself." A quiet teenage girl mumbled, "I just want to stop being scared all the time." The woman nodded after each answer, listening closely. "You're all in the right place," she said. "We're not here to become fighters. We're here to become stronger, inside and out." Over the next few weeks, the class grew, not just in numbers but in confidence. The students learned how to move, how to stand their ground, how to use their voices. They also learned how to trust themselves. The woman taught them that real power didn't come from physical strength alone, but from knowing who you are and standing in that truth. As the program continued, the woman noticed something changing, not just in the students but in herself. She no longer hesitated when she spoke. She no longer looked down when walking into a room. She carried herself differently, shoulders back, head high, not out of pride, but out of peace. She had found her purpose. One evening, after a long class, the instructor stood watching her from the doorway. As the students left one by one, he approached her. "You've built something powerful here," he said. She smiled. "I didn't do it alone. They brought their own strength. I just helped them see it." He nodded. "But it started with you. That first day you could have walked away. Most would have." She thought back to that moment. How people had looked at her with doubt. How she had stayed quiet, unsure if she belonged. And how slowly, step by step, she proved, without needing to shout or fight, that she did belong. "I almost did walk away," she admitted. "But something told me to stay. And now look," he said, motioning to the empty mat. "You've changed lives." She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. As time went on, more people came to her classes. Some stayed for months. Some just came once. But each person left with something. A little more confidence, a little more strength, a little more peace. The woman didn't seek fame or attention. She didn't post videos or chase praise. She showed up. She taught. She listened. And through it all, she quietly built something lasting. One day, a new student joined her class. He was tall, well-built, and confident, a black belt from another gym. He introduced himself politely, but looked around as if unsure why he was even there. Maybe curiosity brought him. Maybe he didn't expect much. The woman welcomed him like any other student. When it came time for partner drills, he chose her. They faced each other on the mat. He smiled slightly like he had seen it all before. She gave a small nod. He made the first move, fast, strong, practiced. But she didn't flinch. She moved with calm precision, stepping aside, redirecting, and gently guiding him off balance. In just a few seconds, he found himself on the ground, safe but surprised. There was a long silence. Then he looked up and laughed softly. "Okay," he said. "I wasn't expecting that." The other students watched, wide-eyed. The woman extended a hand and helped him up. "It's not about force," she said simply. "It's about flow." From that day, he returned every week, not to challenge her, but to learn from her. It was a quiet reminder of how far she had come. Years ago, she was the one who walked into a class filled with doubt. Now she was the one others looked to. She hadn't just mastered a skill, she had become a source of strength for others. Her story had started with hesitation and silence. Now it was a story of purpose, patience, and quiet power. She didn't need to prove anything anymore. The mat was her space. The class was her community. And the strength she carried, the one that once stayed hidden, was now shining in full light. The woman's journey continued in ways she never expected. Martial arts had become more than just a hobby or a skill. It was a part of who she was now. Every day brought new lessons, new challenges, and new chances to grow. One morning, she found a flyer at the gym. It was for a local martial arts tournament, open to everyone. The idea of competing made her nervous. She had never thought about fighting in front of a crowd. For her, martial arts was about peace, confidence, and self-respect. Still, something inside her stirred. Maybe this was the next step. A chance to see how far she had come. She signed up. In the weeks before the tournament, she trained harder than ever. Not to prove anything to others, but to prove something to herself. She practiced moves, worked on her speed, and focused on staying calm. She kept teaching her students too, sharing what she learned and encouraging them. Some said they would come watch her compete. Their support meant the world. The day of the tournament arrived. The gym was full of excitement. Fighters warmed up, coaches shouted advice, and families found seats. She stood at the edge of the mat, her heart pounding, but her mind calm. She remembered when she first walked into the gym, full of doubt and fear. Now she was ready. Her first opponent was quiet but focused. The match began slowly. Both tested each other carefully. She stayed relaxed and waited for her chance. When it came, she moved with ease and confidence. She didn't push hard but used timing and skill to win the round. The crowd clapped softly. She smiled but stayed focused. Each match grew tougher. Some she won, some she lost. Every fight taught her more about patience, respect, and trusting herself. At last, she made it to the final match. The room was silent, full of tension. Her opponent was skilled and sure of herself. But the woman was not afraid. They fought fiercely, moving quickly and carefully. She stayed calm and steady. When the right moment came, she used her skill to gently take control. The final bell rang and the judges announced her as the winner. She felt a rush of happiness and pride. But most of all, she felt thankful for the journey, for the people who believed in her, and for the quiet strength she had found. After the tournament, many came to congratulate her. They asked about her story. She spoke softly about how martial arts gave her more than fighting skills. It gave her confidence and peace. Back at the gym, more people joined her classes, inspired by her example. She kept teaching and learning, always moving forward. But she never forgot the early days, the doubt, the quiet struggle, and the moment her hidden skill surprised everyone. Her story showed that true strength isn't always loud or fast. Sometimes it's quiet and steady. Sometimes it waits until the right moment to shine, and when it does, it can change everything. She knew her journey wasn't over. There would be more challenges, more lessons, and more chances to help others. But now she faced them with grace and confidence. Her hidden skill was no longer hidden. It was her greatest gift on the mat and in life, and that was the real victory. Time passed, but the woman's journey kept bringing surprises. Even after winning the tournament and building a strong community, she never stopped learning or growing. Life, she thought, was a lot like martial arts. Always a practice full of new challenges and chances to show what you've learned. One day she got an invitation to speak at a local event. The organizers wanted her to share her story, how martial arts changed her life and helped her find strength she never knew she had. She felt nervous. Speaking to a crowd was very different from teaching a class or fighting in a tournament, but she knew this was a chance to help others. To show them strength comes in many forms. The day came. She stood behind the microphone and looked at the audience. People of all ages sat in front of her, some curious, some hopeful, some unsure. She began by telling them about the early days, how she doubted herself, how others didn't believe in her, how she almost gave up. She talked about the hidden skill she found, not just martial arts moves, but patience, calm, courage, and kindness. The crowd listened quietly. Some nodded. Some wiped tears away. She shared stories about the students she taught, kids learning respect, women finding confidence, and even a black belt who once thought she was joking. Her words were simple and honest. She spoke from the heart. Afterward, many came to thank her. Some shared their own struggles. Others asked how to start martial arts. She realized her story wasn't just hers. It sparked hope in others, showing that everyone has strength waiting inside. Back at the gym, she grew her program. New classes started, self-defense, mindfulness, and more. She invited guest teachers and made the gym a safe, welcoming place. The community became like a family. People supported each other, sharing stories and encouragement beyond the gym. One evening after a long day, she sat quietly in the empty gym. She looked at the mats, the posters, and the small trophies on the shelf. She thought about how far she had come, from doubting her own skill to leading and inspiring others. She smiled softly. It wasn't about trophies or titles. It was about the journey, the small steps, the quiet moments, and the strength growing inside. Her hidden skill was no longer hidden. It was her life, and she was ready for whatever came next. Even as the woman settled into her role as a teacher and leader in the martial arts community, she knew there was always more to explore. Life had a way of surprising her, reminding her that growth never truly stopped. She found that every new challenge was a chance to learn something new, not just about martial arts, but about herself. One morning, as she was preparing for class, she received an unexpected message from a nearby school. They had heard about her program and wanted her to visit. They were interested in starting a self-defense class for their students, many of whom felt unsafe walking to and from school. The woman felt a deep sense of responsibility. She knew how important it was to give people the tools to protect themselves, but she also knew this was more than just teaching moves. It was about building confidence and helping young people find their voice. She agreed to meet with the school's principal and some teachers. The meeting was warm, filled with questions and hope. They talked about the challenges students faced, bullying, fear, and sometimes a lack of support at home. The woman shared her own story, how martial arts helped her find strength when she needed it most. She spoke about the importance of respect not just for others but for oneself. The school decided to launch a pilot program. The woman would teach a weekly class on self-defense, focusing on simple techniques, awareness, and confidence building. The first day was full of nervous energy. The students were shy at first, unsure what to expect. Some whispered to friends. Others sat quietly watching her carefully. The woman began gently introducing herself and sharing a little about her journey. She wanted them to know she was there to support them, not to judge or pressure them. She started with warm-up exercises and simple moves, showing how defense wasn't about fighting but about staying safe and calm. She encouraged questions and made sure everyone felt included. Slowly, the students began to open up. They practiced the moves together, laughed at small mistakes, and cheered each other on. Over the weeks, the class grew in confidence. The woman noticed changes, not just in their skills but in their attitudes. They walked taller, spoke louder, and smiled more. Parents began to notice too. Some thanked her for helping their children feel safer. Others shared stories about how their kids were standing up to bullying in ways they hadn't before. The woman felt proud but also humbled. She realized this was the real power of martial arts, not just the techniques, but the way it could change lives, especially when shared with care and respect. One afternoon, after class, a student stayed behind. She was quiet and nervous but had a question. "Can I tell you something?" the girl asked softly. "Of course," the woman replied. The girl shared how she had been scared of walking home alone but now felt braver. She said the class helped her believe in herself for the first time. The woman smiled warmly. "That's exactly why we do this." The work at the school became a new chapter in her life. It was different from the gym, but just as rewarding. She found joy in helping young people discover their own hidden strengths. At the same time, she continued to grow her community classes. She introduced mindfulness sessions to help students manage stress and stay focused. She invited experts to talk about nutrition, health, and mental well-being. Her program became a place where people didn't just learn martial arts, they found support, friendship, and hope. One day, a longtime student asked her what kept her going through all the hard times. She thought for a moment and said, "It's the people. The moments when I see someone discover they're stronger than they thought, that makes every struggle worth it." The woman's story had come full circle. From someone who doubted herself to someone who inspired others, she had found a purpose that went beyond belts and trophies. She knew there would always be new challenges ahead. But she faced them with quiet confidence, knowing that her hidden skill, the strength within, would guide her every step of the way. And she was ready to keep sharing that gift, one person at a time. The woman's journey had already taught her so much, but she knew there were still new paths to explore. One day, she was approached by a local community center that wanted her to start a program for people with disabilities. They believed her approach to martial arts, focused on confidence, respect, and inner strength, could really help. At first, she felt unsure. Teaching martial arts to people with different abilities would be a challenge she hadn't faced before. But she also knew this was an opportunity to grow and to help even more people find their own hidden skills. She agreed to meet with the community center leaders and some of the people who would take part in the program. The meeting was full of warmth and hope. The group talked about the difficulties many faced, feeling isolated, underestimated, or misunderstood by others. The woman shared her belief that martial arts was more than just fighting or physical strength. It was about learning how to stand tall, how to trust yourself, and how to face life with courage. The program was planned carefully to fit the needs of each person. The woman worked with specialists and volunteers to make sure the classes would be safe, supportive, and fun. When the first class started, the woman felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The participants were brave and open, ready to try something new. She began by asking them what martial arts meant to them. Some said it was about strength, others about discipline, and a few shared that they hoped to find more confidence. She listened carefully and then gently introduced simple movements that anyone could do. She showed how martial arts could be adapted for every body, every ability. The class laughed together, helped each other, and celebrated small victories. The woman watched as the group's confidence grew, not just in the gym but outside of it too. One participant who used a wheelchair surprised her with quick thinking and sharp focus during the lessons. Another, who had trouble speaking, found a new way to express strength through movement. The woman realized this was one of the most rewarding parts of her journey. Helping people see their own power, no matter the challenges they faced, was deeply fulfilling. She also learned a lot. The program taught her to be more patient, creative, and understanding. It reminded her that strength looks different for everyone. Word spread about the program and more people wanted to join. The community center became a lively place filled with laughter, support, and shared growth. At the same time, the woman kept growing her regular classes and programs. She believed that everyone deserved a chance to discover their hidden skill, whether they were beginners or advanced fighters. She also started working with local schools, teaching anti-bullying workshops and helping kids build self-esteem through martial arts. Through all these efforts, she stayed true to her core belief that martial arts was a way to find peace and strength inside, not just outside. One evening after a busy day, she sat quietly and thought about her journey. From someone who was once underestimated to someone who now inspired many, her story had come a long way. But she knew the journey was never really over. There would always be new challenges and new people to help. Her hidden skill, the quiet strength inside, would guide her, as it always had, and she was ready to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Life had brought many changes for the woman, but she welcomed them with open arms. She had learned that the true value of martial arts wasn't just in the skills or the belts, but in the journey and the people she met along the way. Each new step was a chance to grow, to help, and to learn. One morning, she was invited to participate in a local community event focused on health and wellness. The event aimed to bring people together to celebrate strength, kindness, and support. The woman saw it as a perfect chance to share what she loved with a larger audience. At the event, she set up a small booth with mats and simple demonstrations. People stopped by, curious to see what martial arts could offer. Some were young kids eager to try new moves. Others were older adults who wanted to learn how to stay active and healthy. The woman talked to each visitor with warmth and patience. She explained that martial arts was about more than fighting. It was about learning to respect yourself and others, about building confidence, and about finding peace even in difficult moments. She invited people to try small movements, teaching them how to breathe deeply and move with intention. Many smiled as they discovered how calming and powerful the practice could be. Throughout the day, she met people from all walks of life. Some shared their own stories of struggle and hope. Others asked how to start their own journey in martial arts. A few visitors were hesitant at first, unsure if martial arts was for them. The woman encouraged them gently, reminding them that everyone begins somewhere, and that the most important step is just to try. The event inspired her to think about how martial arts could reach even more people. She started planning new workshops focused on mental health and physical wellness. She wanted to create spaces where people felt safe to explore, grow, and support one another. Back at the gym, her community was growing stronger every day. The students were not just learning moves, they were building friendships and trust. They cheered each other on, celebrated small wins, and supported each other through challenges. One afternoon, a student approached her with a question. "How do you keep going when things get hard?" the student asked. The woman smiled softly. "Sometimes it's not easy. But I remember why I started. I think about the people I want to help, and that keeps me moving forward." She told the student that strength wasn't just about physical power. It was about kindness, patience, and believing in yourself even when it's tough. The woman's own journey had taught her that true strength was quiet and steady. It was the inner courage to face each day with hope and heart. She knew there would be times of doubt and struggle, but she also knew she was never alone. Her community, her students, and the lessons she had learned were with her every step of the way. As the sun set one evening, she sat quietly on the mat, reflecting on how far she had come. From a time when her skill was doubted and misunderstood, to now, a leader, a teacher, and a source of inspiration. She understood now that the greatest victories weren't in trophies or titles. They were in moments of growth, connection, and quiet courage. Her hidden skill had become a beacon, not just for herself, but for everyone she met. And with that, she was ready for whatever the future held, confident that her journey was just beginning. The woman's story was becoming well known in her community, not because she sought attention, but because of the genuine impact she made on people's lives. She never imagined that her hidden skill would lead her to inspire so many others. One day, a local newspaper asked to do a feature on her work. She was hesitant at first. Public attention wasn't something she sought after, but she realized this was another chance to share the message of strength, kindness, and self-belief. The interview went smoothly. She spoke honestly about her journey, the struggles, the doubts, and the moments of quiet courage. She talked about how martial arts was about more than physical skill. It was about understanding oneself and learning to face life's challenges with calm and confidence. The article was published, and soon after, she noticed more people coming to her classes. Some came because they had read about her. Others were curious about martial arts, and some just wanted to find a safe place to grow. Her classes were full of energy and warmth. People from different backgrounds and ages came together, united by a shared desire to learn and support each other. One evening, after a particularly busy class, a visitor approached her. He was quiet but seemed determined. "I want to learn, but I'm afraid I'm too old," he said softly. The woman smiled kindly. "There's no age limit on growth. Martial arts is for everyone. It's about your spirit, your will to learn." She encouraged him to try, and over time he became one of her most dedicated students. His story was a reminder that it's never too late to start something new. Meanwhile, the woman continued to look for ways to expand her reach. She began creating videos and online tutorials so people who couldn't attend in person could still benefit. The response was heartwarming. Messages poured in from people all over, thanking her for sharing her knowledge and inspiring them to believe in themselves. This new chapter brought fresh challenges. Learning to connect with people through a screen was different from teaching face-to-face, but the woman adapted, always focusing on the message of kindness and courage. As her influence grew, she was invited to speak at events and workshops. Each time she shared the same simple truth, that hidden strength exists in everyone, waiting to be found. One day, a young woman came to her with tears in her eyes. She shared how the woman's story had given her hope during a difficult time. The woman listened with a full heart and reminded her gently, "You have the power to rise. Sometimes it takes time, but that strength is inside you." Moments like these made all the hard work worth it. At home, the woman kept her routine balanced. She made time for quiet reflection, for family and friends, and for the simple joys of life. She often thought back to the early days when her skill was doubted, and she wondered if she would ever be enough. Now she knew she was more than enough. Her journey was proof that belief in oneself can move mountains. She looked ahead with hope, knowing that the road would have ups and downs, but confident that her hidden skill, her quiet strength, would always guide her. And she was ready to keep sharing that strength, lighting the way for others to find their own. The woman had come a long way from when she first stepped onto the mat, unsure of what her journey would bring. Over time, her hidden skill, once overlooked, had become a guiding light not only for her but for many others. She knew that every day brought new challenges. Sometimes it was hard to keep pushing forward, especially when life's demands grew heavier. Yet she found strength in small moments, a student's smile, a kind word, or simply the quiet feeling of accomplishment after a hard practice. One day, she decided to organize a special event at the gym. She wanted to celebrate the community they had built, a place where people of all ages and backgrounds felt welcome, safe, and strong. The event was called Strength in Unity. She hoped it would remind everyone that true power came from working together and supporting one another. On the day of the event, the gym was filled with laughter and energy. Families came together, friends reunited, and new faces appeared, eager to join the celebration. The woman led a simple warm-up, inviting everyone to participate no matter their experience or ability. She spoke about how martial arts was a journey, not a race, and that every step forward was a victory. Throughout the day, there were demonstrations, stories shared, and games designed to build trust and teamwork. The woman watched as people cheered for each other, encouraging every effort and celebrating every success. She felt a deep sense of joy. This was more than just a gathering, it was a family coming together. One of the highlights was a group exercise where pairs helped each other balance and move in sync. It showed how much could be achieved when people leaned on one another. As the sun began to set, the woman took a moment to speak to the crowd. She shared her own story, how she had once been doubted and underestimated, and how discovering her hidden skill changed her life. She reminded everyone that strength wasn't about being perfect or winning every fight. It was about courage, kindness, and believing in oneself. Her words touched many hearts. People came forward to thank her, sharing how her journey had inspired them to face their own challenges. After the event, the woman felt energized and hopeful. She realized that her mission was growing, beyond teaching moves and techniques. She was helping to build a community where everyone could thrive. In the weeks that followed, she continued to work with new students, some facing tough times in their lives. She listened with patience and offered encouragement, knowing that the lessons of martial arts applied to more than just physical fights. One student, a young person struggling with self-doubt, began to open up. The woman saw how the practice was helping them find confidence and a voice. It reminded her that teaching was never just about the present moment. It was about planting seeds that would grow over time. The woman also kept learning. She attended workshops, read books, and talked with others in her field to keep improving. She believed that growth was a lifelong journey, and she wanted to model that for her students. One evening after a long day, she sat quietly and reflected on everything that had happened. She felt grateful for the struggles, the victories, and the people who had walked beside her. Her hidden skill was no longer hidden. It had become a light that guided her, her students, and her community. And as she looked to the future, she knew there were many more stories to be written, many more lives to touch, and many more lessons to learn. Because the journey never truly ends, it just changes form, growing deeper and stronger with each step. The woman had learned many lessons over the years. She understood that true strength was not just about power or skill, but about heart and connection. Every day brought new opportunities to teach, learn, and grow. One morning as she was preparing for class, a message came through on her phone. It was from someone she didn't know, a message full of thanks and hope. The person wrote about how they had been struggling with fear and self-doubt. But after watching some of the woman's online videos, they felt inspired to try something new. They wanted to start their own journey and had found courage because of her story. The woman smiled, feeling the power of those words. It reminded her that her work reached far beyond the walls of her gym. That day, she decided to create a new program, one that focused on helping people build confidence step by step. She wanted to make it easy for anyone to join, no matter their background or experience. She called it the first step. The idea was simple. Every small effort counted, and no one was alone on the path. The program included gentle exercises, breathing techniques, and lessons about kindness to oneself and to others. The woman believed that these basics could help anyone face life's challenges with more calm and strength. Word about the program spread quick. People from different places signed up, sharing their stories and struggles. Some had never tried martial arts before, while others were looking for a fresh start. The woman made sure to reply to every message, offering encouragement and support. She knew that behind each story was a person hoping to find peace and strength. In her classes, the energy was different now. It was softer, more thoughtful, People came not just to learn moves, but to connect and heal. One day, a participant shared how the program had helped them through a difficult time at work. They said they felt less afraid to speak up and more able to handle stress. Stories like this filled the woman with gratitude. She realized her hidden skill was touching lives in ways she had never imagined. Outside the gym, the woman continued to live simply and mindfully. She made time for quiet walks, reading, and being with loved ones. She believed that balance was important for true growth. One afternoon, while walking through a park, she noticed a group of children playing. They were full of energy and laughter. She smiled, remembering how joy and play were part of her own journey. She approached the group and invited them to try some simple movements. The children were curious and eager to learn. She showed them how to stretch and breathe, making it fun and light. The children's laughter filled the air, reminding her that strength could come from joy and connection, not just hard work. As the days passed, the woman reflected on the many paths her life had taken. From being doubted and misunderstood, to becoming a teacher and mentor, her journey was full of surprises. She knew that challenges would always come, but she felt ready. Her hidden skill was no longer hidden. It was a part of who she was. With every step, she wanted to help others find their own strength, courage, and peace. And she believed that no matter where someone started, they could take their first step today.